At my son's wedding, I faced an unexpected moment that revealed an amazing life-changing truth. Charlie Thompson stood nervously in front of the mirror, adjusting a borrowed jacket that felt foreign against his hard-working frame. It was his son Jake's wedding day, a day that should have been filled with joy, yet all he felt was an unsettling weight in his chest. As he glanced at the reflection of a humble mechanic shimmering beneath the fancy jacket, the thoughts of long nights in the garage, of sweat-stained shirts, and dreams for this moment wrestled with the harsh reality of his own modest upbringing. The community hall buzzed with laughter and chatter, the air thick with the scent of roses and fancy hors d'oeuvres that felt a world apart from the greasy rags he was used to. When he stepped into the grand hall, adorned with sparkling lights and vibrant flowers, pride mixed with anxiety clutched at his heart. There, amidst the celebrations, was Sarah's family, a picture of affluence that made Charlie feel small. The clink of champagne glasses rang out like alarms in his ears, reminding him of the gap between their worlds, each ding echoing their success while he twisted a worn wrench day in, day out. But today was about love, the love between Jake and Sarah, a bond so precious that not even their economic differences should ruin it. As the reception kicked off, his hopes for a peaceful gathering exploded like a tire blown with too much air. A muffled argument broke out, voices rising as old grievances spilled over. Charlie's heart raced as tension electrified the room. Whispers turned to shouts, past prejudices resurfacing. He felt the heat of frustration and inadequacy edge its way into his core. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion. Just as the atmosphere grew heavy with uncertainty, a familiar face strode in, like a beam of light cutting through a storm. It was Jack, his old war buddy, now a suave entrepreneur with a larger-than-life presence. When Jack grabbed the microphone for a toast, the room fell into silence. Charlie held his breath, anticipation hanging like a pulled bowstring. Jack spoke with sincerity that cut through the tension, resonating with Charlie. "It's not the zeros on your paycheck that define you," he said, his voice steady. "It's how you stand up for each other during life's storms." Each word felt like a comforting blanket, and Charlie could almost see the rigid barriers between the families crack. Slowly, faces softened, those old resentments dusted off as Jack's perspective floated through the hall. Before Charlie could fully grasp this moment of reclamation, a sharp intake of breath sent shivers down his spine. A family member from Sarah's side, propelled by the charged air, stood up and unleashed a hidden truth, a revelation that stabbed at the very heart of what had just begun to mend. Gasps punctured the air, and Charlie felt his breath hitch. The room froze, hearts raced, and he was left grappling with the decision before him. Should he defend his family's honor or lean into the love that had gathered them all today? The tension crackled like a live wire, leaving Charlie on the precipice of something unimaginable. As the noise faded into anxious murmurs, he was drawn into the depths of a profound realization about love and family loyalty. Would he rise up and confront the shadows, risking the fragile peace, and forge a path toward unity? Or would he fold under the weight of the expectations that loomed over them all? Charlie's heart thundered in his chest as he weighed his options. The hall seemed to shrink around him, the laughter and cheers fading into a distant echo. He could feel every eye on him, a gravitational pull that made him feel unsteady. This was more than just a wedding. It was a battleground for dignity, where old wounds could either heal or fester. Taking a deep breath, he looked toward Jake and Sarah. They stood together, hands intertwined, a picture of youthful hope amidst the chaos brewing around them. Their love was pure, a fresh bloom in a garden of complexities, and he realized then that this day was not just about him or their different backgrounds, it was about the two of them, and the journey they would embark upon together. The voice from Sarah's family cut through the tension again. "You think this is just love? Look at where he comes from. Do you really think this can last?" The words landed with a heavy thud, and Charlie felt an overwhelming surge of protectiveness wash over him. They were questioning not just Jake's choice, but everything he had sacrificed for his son. With his heart racing, Charlie stepped forward. "With all due respect," he started, his voice trembling but loud enough to command attention. "Love doesn't know class or wealth. It's about how you treat each other, how you support one another." He took a breath, pushing through his discomfort. Jake has never cared about what someone has or doesn't he have. He loves Sarah for who she is, not what she represents. A murmur swept through the crowd. Charlie pressed on. emboldened by the realization that standing up was more important than worrying about the consequences. I spent my life working hard, teaching him the value of compassion and integrity. That's what truly matters. The din of voices quieted slightly. Some heads nodded in agreement, but there were still skeptical faces. Charlie could feel the heat from the other side, and it only fueled his resolve. Don't mistake strength for weakness. Families can be complex, yes, but they can also thrive if love is at the center. Let us not destroy what Jake and Sarah have built by clinging to outdated ideas. In that moment, he caught a glimpse of Jack, who was nodding approvingly from the back. Strength radiated through him, affirming Charlie's courage. He felt a thread of connection tethering him to Jack and the notion that people can indeed change, can grow, and can stand together in difficult times. Silence hung in the air, thick with possibility. Charlie's heartbeat echoed in his ears as he took a small step back, feeling the weight of his words hang suspended, like fragile glass. Would this be enough to bridge the chasm? The tension seemed to breathe in tandem as murmurs began to rise, unsure but moving toward the warmth of acceptance. Then Sarah's mother stood, her expression a mixture of surprise and contemplation. "Charlie, you've given us something to think about," she said softly, surprise lacing her voice. But then, just as the tension seemed to shift, an unexpected figure rose from the back. A man Charlie recognized only too well, a past figure of authority from his own struggles. As the man approached, shadows of the past flickered in Charlie's mind like ghosts, deepening the stakes of this confrontation. "Maybe you feel brave standing there, Charlie," the man said, the air stiffening, "but I know things. I think it's time we talked about how this marriage might affect our families." Charlie's resolve wavered, a chill running down his spine. He had hoped to weather the storm, but it looked like they were only at the beginning. Would his actions bring reconciliation? Or would they expose even deeper rifts than before? As the confrontation loomed, Charlie braced himself for what was to come. The man stepped forward, and Charlie could see the disdain etched across his face. It was a look that carried years of judgment and the kind of power that made everyone hold their breath. The flicker of familiarity brought back memories of a time when Charlie felt small, silenced by authority. Anger and fear churned within him, but he clenched his fists, refusing to back down. "Who are you to dictate what's best for this family?" Charlie shot back, his voice steady now despite the torrent inside. The crowd shifted, people leaning in closer, hungry for the unfolding drama. "You really think love will be enough?" The man's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Jake might believe it now, but when the honeymoon is over, he'll come running back to where he belongs. You can't escape your past, nor him from his." For a moment, the words hung heavily in the air as if the very room was waiting for a verdict. Charlie felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. What if he was wrong? What if love wasn't enough? But then he glanced back at Jake and Sarah, their hands still clasped together, eyes locked in mutual defiance. They were fragile abandonments of hope, but they were also stronger than he felt at that moment. "Is that what you want?" he asked, voice rising. "To scare them into submission? This isn't about past mistakes. It's about a new story. They have the power to write something different, something beautiful. We all do." Someone from the crowd spoke up, a woman in a bright dress. "Yes, right. My marriage isn't perfect, but it's filled with love, not fear." A ripple of agreement flowed through the audience, lightening the oppressive weight built up only moments ago. But the man smirked, sneering at their shared vulnerability. "You think you understand love? Without a solid foundation, they'll crumble." Charlie took a step closer, heart racing. "But it's not even the house that matters. It's the people inside. Love is the strongest foundation of all." The murmur grew louder, gaining momentum, challenging the man at the front. And then something shifted in the air. Charlie felt it, a crack in the armor that some kept around their hearts. With every moment of vulnerability he dared to expose, the weight of the past lost its grip, fear flickered in the man's eyes, and for just a breath Charlie could see him reconsider. But before Charlie could seize the moment, the man's expression hardened again. "Love won't pay the bills or silence the whispers. You're fooling yourselves." Charlie's heart sank at the harsh reality of those words, but it wasn't defeat he felt. It was resolve. "Maybe," he said, voice low but fierce, "but it will create a home worth coming back to." The tension was palpable, and it felt as if the world held its breath. But then Jake stepped forward, breaking the invisible barrier that had built up. "Dad. I didn't ask for permission. I asked for support. I know where I stand and I choose Sarah." His words radiated a kind of courage that pierced through the communal tension, igniting hope in the hearts of those watching. More voices chimed in, each echoing Jake's sentiment. Each declaration added warmth to the space, wrapping tightly around Jake and Sarah, binding them in a united front against the doubts that had plagued them. But as the murmur of acceptance rose, Charlie felt an unsettling shift inside himself. Who would challenge the man lurking behind the shadows in his own heart? All at once, Charlie spotted Jack's face again, mingled with a sense of urgency. Would the past come creeping back, threatening the fragile hope being built in the hall? He turned back to face the crowd, heart pounding. "Listen, we can redefine who we are in this moment. But I need to know, are we ready to stand together?" As the crowd responded with tentative yet enthusiastic agreement, a flicker of possibility ignited his spirit. But looming behind their shared courage was a new question, a new fear, a new challenge. Has everyone truly set aside their judgment? Just then, a low growl of thunder rumbled outside, an ominous reminder that storms can return when least expected. Charlie's heart thrummed wildly as he realized that the night was just beginning. What more would the past reveal, and who else would be affected by their stand? The murmurs faded into a tense silence, but the thunder outside rumbled louder, almost as if fueling the emotions boiling within the room. Charlie could feel the static, the collective energy building as the crowd held on to every word. It wasn't just about Jake and Sarah anymore. It was about them all standing together against the weight of old expectations and fears. Jake's gaze darted around the room, seeking affirmation, even as shadows of doubt loomed in the corners of his father's eyes. The vulnerability in Jake's expression triggered something deep within Charlie, the memory of countless times he had felt scared to stand up for what he believed. He could still hear his own father's voice echoing in his head, reminding him of the dangers of defiance. Yet, here he stood ready to break that cycle. "We're not just fighting for Jake and Sarah. We're fighting for all of us," Charlie rallied, heart racing as he swept his gaze across familiar faces, hoping to ignite something inside each of them. "We have the power to rewrite these stories. Let us show the world that love has more value than fear." A few brave souls nodded and even shouted affirmations, igniting flickers of hope in Charlie's heart. But just then the man stepped forward again, his presence looming like a dark cloud. "You think this is just about you? Love isn't a magic trick. You can't just wave a wand and expect everything to change." His words hit home like a thunderclap, and Charlie clenched his fists, willing himself to stay calm. "No, it's not magic," he replied, voice steadying with determination. "It's a choice we make every single day. It's about showing up, fighting through the storms." The crowd seemed to resonate with his words, murmurs of agreement bubbling up once more. But Charlie wasn't just stoking the embers of defiance. He was wrestling with his own insecurities. In the corner of the room, he caught sight of Jack's troubled expression again, that flicker of resentment sparking anew. Was Jack still living in the shadows of old fears too? He stepped closer. "This is about breaking that cycle, Jack. It's about giving ourselves the freedom to be who we really are, without judgment. No one is perfect, but we can still be powerful together." Jack's face softened slightly, but his lips remained a tight line. "But what if it doesn't work? What if we destroy everything instead of building it up? What if we do work?" Charlie shot back just as fiercely but with a tremor of vulnerability. "What if this is our chance to find something real? Something that lasts?" The weight of their history hung like a layer of mist around them, but Charlie could see a flicker of interest sparking in Jack's gaze. Then he spotted Sarah, her face radiant with a brave smile. She raised her hand high, catching the attention of others in the room. "You all have a chance to create something beautiful. Don't let the storms of the past drown out your voices." More hands shot up, hesitancy giving way to enthusiasm. The gathering felt electric, charged with a collective heartbeat. Charlie could hardly breathe in the swell of emotion. They were at a crossroads, that much he knew. It was more than just words. It was a firm foundation being built in each moment of vulnerability shared. He felt his own doubts creep back in, whispering questions he couldn't fully silence. Could they really rise above this? Would love really be enough to weather the storms ahead? And what would happen when the echoes of the past truly collided with their newfound courage? But as the thunder rolled again and reminded them of nature's strength, Charlie knew they must embrace this moment. It was time to take a stand, to not just feel the weight but to lift it. "Will you stand with us?" he called, voice ringing with urgency. The resonance of his question hung in the air. Begging for affirmation, he held his breath as he watched their faces shift, hope glimmering faintly, but there was still a tremor of uncertainty. It was clear every heart had its battles. Would they be brave enough to confront their own pasts together? Outside, the storm loomed larger, a reflection of the emotional tempest brewing inside. Charlie's heart raced, knowing that the answer to his question could change their lives forever. The room took a collective breath, an odd stillness that contrasted with the chaos outside. Charlie's heart hammered in his chest as he searched the crowd's faces. He felt vulnerable but also emboldened, ready to face whatever came next. Would they rise to the challenge? Or would they crumble under the weight of fear? Then something shifted. A voice broke through the silence. A woman with tears glistening in her eyes stood up. "I've spent years silencing myself. The fear of judgment has held me back. But I want to be heard." Her words, raw and powerful, sent ripples through the crowd. Inspired, others began to share their struggles, short stories spilling forth like rain after a drought. A man spoke of his suffocating job. A woman talked about leaving a toxic relationship. Each tale carried its weight, yet lifted others at the same time. Charlie can't remember ever feeling such a wave of unity. Then Sarah stepped forward again, her voice rising like a crescendo. "This is our moment. Let us not waste it." She looked directly at Jake, who seemed almost incandescent with emotion. The lingering doubt in his eyes flickered as he nodded, stepping up beside her. "Together we can be brave. We can love freely." Jake's voice wavered but carried strength. The more he spoke, the more people in the crowd responded. Hands shot up in agreement. Hearts were opening like flowers seeking sunlight. The embarrassment, the regret, it slowly withered away, replaced with a simmering hope. Yet still Jack stood back, arms crossed, skepticism etched into his features. Charlie couldn't shake the need to reach him. He stepped closer, ignoring the distance Jack was trying to create. "Jack," Charlie said quietly, "what do you want? What would it take for you to stand with us?" Jack's eyes narrowed. A spark of frustration passed over his face. "I just want it all to be real. Feels like just words, like a dream that will fall apart." "Isn't that how dreams start?" Charlie challenged, his voice softer yet firm. "They begin with a choice. A choice to believe that something better can exist. It's our courage that will turn this into reality." Charlie could see a war raging behind Jack's mask of skepticism, a hesitation that turned his hands into fists and clenched his jaw. Yet, that vulnerability, the cracks in his armor, encouraged Charlie. "You have to let go of the past to step into your future, Jack," Charlie pressed, heart pounding. "We're all scared. But what we've all endured matters. Can help us grow, but only if we choose to let it. Let us build something new together." At these words, silence fell again. Jack's expression softened just slightly. What if we do this and it doesn't change anything? It can't get any worse, can it?" Sarah chimed in, a playful yet earnest smile breaking the tension. "What's scarier than staying stuck?" The room filled with laughter, a sound so healing it broke through everyone's barriers. In that instant of connection, Charlie felt a strong current pulling at Jack, an urge to be included, to join their band of dreamers. The laughter paved a way for something genuine, building trust amidst the storm of doubts. And just like that, the tide began to turn. Jack's tight grip on his arms loosened, and he took a small step forward. "All right. I'm in." His voice was steady, though it carried the weight of uncertainty, a sense of bravado laced with hope. The crowd erupted into applause, affirmation ringing in the air. Charlie couldn't help but grin, feeling the weight of the moment. The storm outside, rather than a hindrance, felt like the backdrop to their liberation. They were choosing to forgive, to heal, and most importantly, to believe in something meaningful. Suddenly, the thunder cracked louder, shaking the windows, a reminder of the power swirling outside. But in the heart of the gathering there was laughter, courage, and a burgeoning sense of community. "Together we can face whatever comes," Jake shouted, his hands raised high. As their voices rose in a collective cheer, A new kind of electricity pulsed through Charlie. This wasn't just talk, it was a movement. And just as he was about to suggest a plan for their next steps, a vicious bolt of lightning illuminated the room, causing everyone to freeze. Charlie's heart dropped as he caught sight of something or someone, making a dramatic entrance through the half-open door. Who was it, and what did their unexpected arrival mean for the future they were trying to build? The door swung wider, creaking against the floor, and a figure stepped into the room. Rain lashed against the windows, the wild storm echoing the tumult of emotions already swirling inside. Every single eye turned to the newcomer, hearts pounding with a mix of fear and curiosity. It was a man tall and imposing, with features that held an air of authority and mystery. His hair was slicked back, and his eyes glinted with an intensity that made Charlie's stomach tighten. Instinctively, he took a step back, drawing the crowd's anxious energy with him. "Who are you?" Jake's voice broke the tension, firm despite the slight tremor it held. The man moved forward, taking his time, scanning the faces around him. Charlie felt the weight of his gaze as it landed on Jack, then drifted over to Sarah. "I'm here because I've heard about your gathering," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I wanted to see this movement for myself, to feel the spirit of what you're trying to create." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Was he a supporter? An outsider looking for trouble? Charlie could see Jack's brows knitting together. Suspicion etched into his expression. "What do you want with us?" Jack shot back, stepping protectively beside Sarah. A flicker of a smile crossed the stranger's lips. "I want to know if what you've started is real." His eyes sparkled with a challenge. "Can your words stand up to the storm outside, or will they wash away?" In that moment, an electric tension filled the room. Charlie felt panic rising but pushed it down. He knew they needed to stay united. This was another test, and they had come too far to let doubt slip in. He took a tentative step forward, trying to project a calm sincerity. "Everyone here has laid bare their fears and hopes," Charlie replied, voice steady, more resolute than he felt. "We are building something together, something that means more than just talk." "Building?" The man's eyebrows lifted, a hint of surprise crossing his face. "And if the ground beneath you crumbles, what will you do then?" That hit hard. It was a question Charlie had asked himself multiple times since this journey began. He searched the faces of his friends, seeing their resolve. They were scared too, but they had chosen this path together. It had to mean something. "What if we do stumble?" Sarah spoke up, her voice delicate yet fierce. "Isn't that what makes us human? It's our willingness to lift each other up that matters." The mood shifted, believe it or not. Even the stranger looked intrigued. It was as if a glimmer of understanding sparked behind his steely facade. "All right," he mused, taking a step among them. "Show me what you are capable of." Charlie felt an unexpected blend of relief and anticipation. They hadn't expected this moment, but here it was a chance to prove their sincerity, their strength, their unity. "Let us share again," he proposed, moving toward the center of the room with renewed energy. "Let us show him and ourselves what we're made of." One by one, voices began to emerge again. They recounted stories of resilience and transformation, the promise of what could be. Charlie watched the man closely, studying his reactions as laughter and tears intertwined, creating a tapestry of shared humanity. Just as the atmosphere began to shift from uncertainty to camaraderie, another loud crash of thunder rattled the windows, seemingly in agreement with the flood of emotion in the room. "Is that enough for you?" Jake asked, his brow still furrowed but a flicker of hope illuminating his eyes. The man paused, absorbing the energy. Charlie's heart raced. Would they win him over? Would his skepticism melt away like the storm outside? Just then, a sudden shout erupted from the back of the room, drawing their attention. "Wait! We can't just let this moment pass without action." A familiar face stepped forward, someone Charlie never expected to see here today. What would this new voice bring? And would it push their movement even further into real transformation? Max. Charlie couldn't believe his eyes. Max, his childhood friend, stood tall with a determined expression. He hadn't seen Max in years. Not since high school. But there he was, breaking the tension like the first rays of sun peeking through a storm. "Now is the time," Max continued, his voice ringing clear over the hum of surprise. "We need to take what we've just shared and turn it into something real. I know we can." What do you mean? Jack asked, skepticism returning to his voice, but now mixed with curiosity. Max stepped forward, his posture confident. We've shared our stories, our fears, our dreams. But stories alone don't change anything. We need to take action. Create a plan that helps those around us even in this storm. Charlie could feel the energy in the room shift again. Suddenly, the stranger who had come to challenge them felt less intimidating. Instead, they had a chance to galvanize a movement, a real one. Like what? Jake posed, exploring the idea as he glanced between Max and the others. You want to start a fundraiser or what? Max shrugged, but his eyes sparkled with possibility. Why not think bigger? Let us organize a community meeting, bring more people in. Create a place where everyone can share their concerns, and then we can help them address those issues directly. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Charlie felt warmth spreading through his chest. This was the push they needed. There was a surge of excitement as people leaned in, faces lighting up with ideas. Imagine, Sarah said, her hands gesturing animatedly, we could provide resources. Support networks help people rebuild connections. Maybe even start a safe space for everyone hitting rock bottom. A collective yes echoed back. Optimism hung in the air, blending beautifully with the sound of the rain. Charlie felt overwhelmed. The words were spilling from the others, flowing like the storm itself, powerful and transformative. Together they could do something extraordinary. Yet, beneath that excitement, a knot of fear tugged at him. Could they really pull this off? The stranger Charlie could hardly believe he had momentarily forgotten about him, observed them intently, the slightest flicker of respect in his steady gaze. Charlie hoped it was enough to convince him of their dedication. What do you think? Jake turned to the stranger, voice steady yet edged with tension. Can we show you our resolve through action? The man considered for a moment, his demeanor shifting from skepticism to cautious optimism. I'll admit you've got spirit. He paused, drawing the eye of each person in the room. But to stand up to the storm, it will require everything you have. A wave of determination crashed over the group. They all nodded, agreement shimmering in their eyes. They wanted this. They needed this. Let us take the first step, Charlie said, raising his voice above the rest. Let us plan that meeting. We'll find a way to help. We are stronger together. Cheers erupted, and a sense of hope blossomed in the room. Charlie could feel it, the tide of their movement was rising as their excitement began to settle into plans and tasks. Max slipped into the background. Charlie noticed him, standing apart yet vibrantly present. A flood of gratitude surged through him, mingling with the collective energy in the room. But just as they were about to dive into the details, another clap of thunder split the air, rattling the windows. The lights flickered. For a heartbeat, it felt as if the storm had swallowed them whole. Was that? Jake started, but the stranger's hand shot up, silencing him. Wait. There was an urgency in his voice, eyes darting to the door as it began to rattle ominously. A new wave of uncertainty washed over Charlie. What was out there? What was about to happen? He took a breath, heart pounding, uncertainty wrapping tightly around him. Their potential felt fragile now, almost like the delicate pieces of a puzzle waiting to fall apart. What's coming? Sarah whispered, fear creeping back into her eyes. And with the flickering lights, a shadow loomed just beyond the door, ominous and foreboding. Would they find answers? Or would the storm outside disrupt everything they had just begun to build? The shadow at the door pulsed with a tension that felt almost tangible, hanging over the room like the low rumble of the storm outside. Charlie's heart raced, uncertainty clouding his mind. The energy that had just surged through the group now felt precarious, like a candle flickering in the wind. Do we need to lock the door? Jake asked, his voice a mix of concern and bravado. Everyone turned their eyes to the door, waiting for whatever was out there to make its move. The stranger stepped forward again, his face grim. Whatever it is, we can't let it intimidate us. This storm and whatever follows won't change our resolve. His voice held steady, a beacon in the growing anxiety. With a loud crash, the door swung open. Wind howled through the room, whipping hair and papers into a frenzy. A figure emerged, soaked to the bone but defiant. It was an older man, his clothes heavy with rain, and in his eyes burned a fire that held both fear and determination. Help, he gasped, his breath visible in the charged air. Please, I need help. The group drew back for a moment, stunned by the urgency in his voice. This was a call for action, not just talk. Charlie's initial panic turned to instinct. The words that had just been shared, the plans for a community support system, they didn't just exist in the realm of ideas anymore. They were in flesh and blood, in the reality of this man before them. How can we help? Max asked, moving forward into the chaotic wind. He tentatively reached out, his expression open and inviting. I lost my home, the man said, eyes wide with desperation. The flooding, it swept everything away. My family, they're scattered. I need to find them. I don't know where to start. Their plans suddenly felt more urgent, demanding to be put into action. Charlie looked at the faces around him. Reflection, concern, and a growing sense of purpose lit up the room. This wasn't just a community meeting anymore. This was about real lives. Let us get him warm and dry first, Sarah suggested, her voice stronger now, infused with intention. They led him into the back room, surrounding him with blankets and hot cups of tea. Charlie felt his heart swell as he watched the empathy on everyone's faces. Here, amid the storm, they were coming together for someone in need. While we take care of him, Charlie said, let us talk about how we can help find this man's family. We can mobilize our neighbors, anyone who is willing to lend a hand. As discussions erupted around him, a realization dawned on Charlie. This moment was what they had all wanted. The storm outside was fierce, but this was their chance to be the calm, a lighthouse in their own community's needs. Minutes turned into an hour, and by the time they eased the man's fears, there were plans underway. Charlie's heart raced, not with fear this time, but with the energy of possibility. They would use social media, distribute flyers, call local shelters. But just as hope began to knit itself into a plan, a horrible crack echoed through the air. The windows rattled again, and the lights dimmed once more. Something's not right, Jake said, his voice shaky. I think we need to fortify this place. There might be more to this storm than we thought. A chill ran through Charlie. Besides the man who had just come in, what else could the storm bring? What consequences could they face as they ventured into this new territory for help, hope, and action? Everyone, we can't let fear control us, Max urged. We can do this. A chorus of agreement filled the room, reinforcing their resolve, but what happened next would test their limits in ways they hadn't imagined. Just as ambition and courage broke to the surface, the lights flickered violently before plunging them into darkness, an unsettling quiet descending in the wake. In that moment, with uncertainty pressing against them like the pounding rain, Charlie understood their journey had only just begun. What awaited them on the other side of this darkness? And as the first sounds of commotion echoed outside, they braced for an unfolding reality that might change everything they thought possible. What if the storm didn't just threaten their movement, but offered them a chance to emerge transformed? The dark silence that enveloped the room was suddenly pierced by a loud crash outside, sending shivers down everyone's spine. The wind screamed against the walls, an ominous warning to all inside. Charlie could feel the collective heartbeat of the group, a rhythm of fear and determination. Is everyone all right? Sarah's voice echoed, a thin thread of reassurance woven into her tone. They huddled closer, exchanging worried glances, the weight of uncertainty pressing heavily around them. The man in the blankets leaned forward, eyes glistening with desperation and a touch of hope. We have to do something, he said, clutching the edges of the fabric around him. My family might be out there alone. We can't wait. Charlie felt a surge of urgency. They had the numbers, the willpower. You're right, he said. We can't just sit here. We need to split up and look for them. We'll take flashlights, sticks, anything we can use to help. Max nodded, his resolve shining in the shadows. I'll go with you, Charlie. 2 pairs of eyes are better than one. As the group began to strategize, the outline of possibilities started to fill the tension in the room. They quickly gathered, moving like a well-oiled machine to organize themselves. Flashlights were distributed, their beams flickering like stars. Everyone felt the pull of purpose nudging them toward action. Suddenly, there was a loud bang at the door, making everyone jump. The hesitation was palpable as they shared concerned glances, the storm now a haunting background score. Who could that be? Jake whispered, visibly shaken. The door rattled again, more forcefully this time. Charlie stepped forward, hand hovering above the knob, heart pounding in his chest. It could be more people needing help, he said. Though uncertainty clung to the edge of his words, with a deep breath, he yanked the door open. Wind rushed inside, mingling with the urgent cries that followed. A young woman stumbled in, hair plastered to her face, clothes drenched. "Please, I saw a man, he is hurt." Gasps echoed around her. "Where?" Max asked, stepping forward, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Down by the creek." He fell. I tried to help, but her breath hitched as panic swirled in her eyes. Without hesitating, Charlie turned to the group. "All right, we need to move. We can't leave anyone behind." The moment felt monumental. Lives were at stake, and they stood ready to face the storm together. They collaborated swiftly, devising pairs to head out. Charlie grabbed a flashlight, breathing in determination. "We stay in contact. If anything goes wrong, we regroup." One by one, they headed out into the tempest, each person an anchor to the others. The wind howled as they trudged toward the creek, their makeshift team feeling both brave and vulnerable. As Charlie walked beside Max and the young woman, he noticed small things: the way the rain splattered on their cheekbones, tiny droplets of resilience forming on their brows. "This is the moment we were made for," he said, trying to bolster their spirits. Just as they reached the edge of the creek, the glow of their flashlights illuminated a figure in the water, fighting the current. Fear ripped through Charlie as he realized they were racing against time. "Grab a rope," he shouted. They all jumped into action, working as one cohesive unit. But as they leaned forward to help, a sudden roar came from the storm above, and the ground beneath them trembled. It was as if nature itself was rebelling against their efforts. "Hold on," shouted Max, his eyes wide with intensity. Just then a sharp crack resounded, and a tree beside them splintered, crashing down with a deafening thud, sending splinters flying. Panic surged, and in that moment Charlie felt the weight of another truth. They were not just fighting the storm, but something much larger, an awakening of their community spirit and the bonds they held with one another. But would they be fast enough to save the man? Would the storm become a catalyst for their transformation, or their demise? The question loomed, pressing against their hearts as they forged onward, the wind now a distant memory to their resolve. What lay ahead as they navigated not only the floodwaters but the secrets of the storm itself? Amidst the roaring storm, the darkness faded into the backdrop of flickering flashlights and anxious hearts pushing forward, driven by hope. Charlie and his group stood at the banks of the creek, adrenaline racing through their veins. Each pulse surged with the urgency of the moment. The thunder rolled again, but it felt less of a warning and more like a battle cry. "Hold tight," Charlie shouted to the figure struggling in the water. He felt the weight of lives depending on them, the power of love igniting within him like a spark under tousled ashes. "We're coming for you." They formed a human chain, grasping for whatever they could find: branches, ropes, each other. "On three," Max called, heart thudding against his chest. 1, 2, 3. With time slowed down around them, the linked arms reached out, and a pair of desperate hands found Charlie's grip. Their eyes met, and in that instant he saw not just fear but a raging fire to survive, to live, to love. That connection snapped Charlie to full focus, every worry dissipating. "Pull him in, I've got him," Charlie yelled, straining with the effort. Muscles taut as they reeled the man from the water to safety, energy vibrating in the air around them. "Is he okay?" One of the women gasped, worry permeating the atmosphere as the surrounding group pulled the man out of the water, laying him down on the muddy ground. The rain beat down, but hope filled the air as Charlie knelt beside him, instincts kicking in. "He's alive," Charlie murmured, feeling a wave of relief wash over him. "We need to check his wounds." He glanced back at his group. "We need to help him. Can someone call for medical assistance?" A swift hand shot up. "I'll go." It was one of his neighbors, ready to run back, already deciding on the best path through the storm. "Stay focused here." Then she dashed off, and it was just them, the man, and the force of nature merging, a collective pulse in the raw chaos of the night. Around them, a teamwork that felt as old as time flourished. Max was fanning towels, and Sarah tossed them to the soaking hero they had rescued. Each member chimed in, moving together in a singular rhythm. Charlie felt like they were more than just individuals. They had become a living organism, one pushing forward with a singular aim, driven by love. After what felt like hidden eternity timelines condensed into seconds, the stranger grasped for breath, his eyes fluttering open with confusion before resting on Charlie. "You found me?" "Yeah," Charlie said, wiping his brow with the back of his hand, overwhelmed with a sense of unity buzzing through him. "You're safe now. Just hang in there." The wind howled above them, almost like a cheer, an acknowledgement of their collective courage. Just then the woman returned, urgency threading through her voice as she updated them. "Help is on the way. Just hang tight. They'll be here soon." "I knew there are good people left," the man exclaimed, his voice hoarse but filled with conviction. "Not just in the storm but in this community." The words sang in Charlie's heart, reverberating in the soaked air. This was more than just a wedding. This was the birth of something powerful. Fear was melting away, being replaced by the collective resolve of individuals, refusing to be defined by their struggles or judged by misfortune. They were stepping stones toward transformation. Just as reality sank in, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated the scene, and Charlie caught a glimpse of Jack, who had resurfaced from the crowd on the bank. His face, once marred by doubt, now reflected something different and understanding. "Come on," Jack shouted, his voice a lifeline of encouragement. "Let us finish this." With renewed energy they helped lift their rescued stranger, carving a path through the chaos. They returned, rediscovering strength and vulnerability, friendships rebuilding brick by brick, heart by heart. Charlie found Jake, pulling him close. "We've done something powerful today, haven't we?" "Yes," Jake cried, eyes shining with a mixture of relief and pride. "We've shown that love can conquer fear." And as they trudged back to the hall, the clouds began to break apart, revealing a thinning veil of stars glittering above small lights that reflected the new light igniting in everyone's spirits. The cacophony of the storm gave way to the soft patter of rain against the earth, whispering tranquility. Charlie felt a rush of hope swell in his chest. Together they had turned the chaos of the storm into a beautiful tapestry of shared humanity, and he knew this was merely the start of a long rebuilding journey. In a world stitched together by fear, they'd chosen to weave something different, a quilt crafted from resilience and family. "Let us gather everyone," Charlie said, determination washing over him. "We have stories to share, lessons learned. We are just beginning to embrace the strength we all have." With a sense of purpose they made their way back, each step resonating with the promise of tomorrow. They would not only remember this evening, they'd use it to inspire bravery and love in every rising heart. And so, at the edge of chaos and hope, surrounded by friends who had turned into family, Charlie understood what it meant to not just survive, but to thrive together. The storm had indeed tested them, but it had also unveiled something more grand, a new truth forged in the crucible of shared struggles. Now, amidst the warm flickering lights of the hall, Charlie stood taller, realizing that the love found that night would positively ripple through countless lives, starting with their own. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change and action. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this community growing. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support is what fuels our journey.